Budokan.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches. I am your host, Ryan Roxie. How are you all doing? How has everything been going these last few weeks? I'm telling you, just having a good time out there, doing some crazy impromptu acoustic shows, getting ready for the upcoming Alice Cooper show, getting ready for the, not just a show, an actual Alice Cooper tour. Of course, putting on my Enjoy the Riffs, and of course, concentrating on the In the Trenches podcast. As you file into the live chat, as you do each and every week, thank you so much for showing up on our YouTube channel. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of those other things, thank you so much. But you see that subscribe button that Vic, our Chalfont, our illustrious producer, just put up. If you are on our YouTube channel at Ryan Roxie Official, just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps us get eyeballs onto the podcast, onto the episodes, and week in and week out, we'll keep on turning up and churning out some great chats. And this week is no exception at all. You ready to dive into it? Because it's a family affair today on In the Trenches. A family affair. That's right. For one, I get to chat with the drummer of one of my all-time favorite bands. And if you don't know who that is at this point, if you don't know who that is, that means that you're new to the podcast. And again, if you're new to the podcast, hit that subscribe button right there on that Ryan Roxie Official. But we've been talking about getting together and having a little chat about rock and roll for a bunch of years. But today's the day that we finally make it a reality. Not even here to promote anything in particular, just hang out with us for a bit in the trenches. Would you please welcome into those said trenches the drummer of the band, and this one I'm sure you all know, that said band being Cheap Trick. Say hello to Daxx Nielsen. Hello, Daxx.
Hello, Ryan. This is the first podcast interview between me and you.
It is, man. All of a sudden, your vocal got super loud.
Oh, well, I got a little excited because I'm talking to you, so I'll keep it low.
No, it sounds great, but I just don't want Vic Chalfont, our producer, to be freaking out backstage. But he's got a Cheap Trick shirt on. He wore it in solidarity with you. But as long as I get the thumbs up from him, then we're ready to go. Okay, thumbs up. Good. Because we got everybody backstage right now. We got Federica. Thank you very much for contributing to all the promo and the script for this week. But guess what? There wasn't that much of a script for me because we've known each other for a few years now. And we've just been talking about talking rock and roll. And I'm glad we're finally making it a reality.
Absolutely. We've known each other. We've known of each other for over a decade, but we've actually been friends for probably 7, 8, 9 years. So,
and I'm happy that you come out to pretty much whenever we would play a Midwest show, you'd make it out to these towns. You'd take the drive. Definitely anytime we played around Illinois area, the Rockford area, but right. No longer because there you go. There's a friend of In the Trenches, Tommy Hendricks and Daxx right there. I think I got cropped out. I got the cruel crop from Vic, our producer. I'm in that photo, I think. I really did. But
I think that was in Madison or Milwaukee, one of the two. That was definitely in Wisconsin.
We'll definitely be in Wisconsin again this year. I'm looking forward to it. That's where I picked up my guitar vault. But my thing is, you're no longer Midwest. You've made the pilgrimage out even to the far west, right?
Yeah, not to Phoenix.
Not the coast. Phoenix.
No, not quite the coast. In kind of the desert, but there's mountains 90 minutes away. I'm here in Phoenix, the home of Alice Cooper. You might have met him before. I'm not sure.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm neighbors with your buddy.
And you also have enough room now to have an actual studio drum setup, and you're the man behind the drums right now.
Absolutely. Yes, I've got this great setup now where I just flip around. I hit the space bar and then flip around and do a track, and we're just sitting here and practice and write music and whatever. It's been
just hang with
really
us
nice
in the trenches. Or just hang out and answer questions in the trenches and talk about everything from the past all the way to the present and a little bit of the future too. But let's dip our toe first into the past because we got to go back to get forward. What do you say, Vic? So there you go. I briefly mentioned Rockford, Illinois, and I think if anybody says Rockford, Illinois, the immediate thought is Cheap Trick. I was there. I was there. I think Alice Cooper, we were on tour with Cheap Trick, and Cheap Trick headlined the night we played Rockford, Illinois.
Right.
Alice opened up, and you guys got the key to the city. That was
Wow.
a few years ago, and
That
you
was
were
before my
probably
time, but
yeah, it was probably, but it wasn't before your time on this earth. But you were probably there at that show. But
it wasn't 42 years ago. No.
Mama, Mama. That's what you were saying. But
Yeah, it's incredible that Alice opened for Cheap Trick. You know, I mean, it is Rockford, but
well, that was a great tour. Well, that was a great tour for me because that was kind of, checking off one of those bucket list things to tour with you with the posters on your wall. And honestly, the very first podcast I ever had out in 2005, I recorded it on GarageBand. It was called Big Rock Show. And your dad and Bunny were the two guests that I had for that podcast episode.
Wow.
I still remember it. And there it is. Speaking of your dad,
You've been doing this a long time, my friend.
Well, you know what? Just dabbling in it. And I think we got a flow going. There it is. That's the back cover of In Color and in black and white. Love that.
If you look in the back there, that's actually, do you remember the World's Fair? Like if you ever seen the movie Men in Black, where the UFOs take off in New York City right in the middle, that's where the World's Fair was outside of New York City.
Okay.
By Mets Stadium.
And there seems to be some sort of water in the background as well.
Yeah.
Is it on the lake or something like that? What model of moped was that?
That I don't know.
I just remember that Rick and Tom were on the front with these really cool Harleys, but then it was those cartoon characters that we love so much, and your dad being this larger than life character, leads me to you being the son of Rick Nielsen. And my question is, Father of the Year or tyrannical band leader?
Definitely not tyrannical. He's a great guy, sweetheart, as you know. You've met him a million times.
Yeah.
Great father when he was home, and even gone. I mean, he was obviously out working and, being an influence to so many musicians and just people that, you've heard it before too. Like, your music changed my life. Your music saved my life. You hear that often, and it's always, it's heavy and it's hard to comprehend that, like, songs and music and something that Rick wrote could change or save somebody's life. But yeah, I mean, the older I've gotten and the longer I've played with him and the band, you do realize, like, yeah, he missed a lot of our, my siblings and my childhood, but he was out there doing something vastly more important for a lot of people,
larger than life. I think when you've made a quote in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and it comes out of Damone's mouth, right. I think that actually solidifies more than a lot of things. But
I want you to want me, the dream police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your mama's all right, your daddy's all right, but just seem a little bit weird. Surround.
Our producer, Vic, has been waiting to run that clip for so long. You're welcome. I let him up with a big softball right there, and he had time to dial it up because that had nothing to do with our script at all. So
I just love that he's like selling Cheap Trick big time, but he got Dream Police completely wrong and Surrender. Dream Police, da 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 da. Like, there's like 5 extra notes, and then your mom, whatever. Your mommy's all right. Your daddy's all right. Like,
I know, but he's Damone, man. You give him a pass. He's Damone, man. Wherever you are is the place to be. I can imagine around the house, because I was lucky enough to go to your house way back in the day. There's always probably guitars lying around, but what was it that drew you to the drums?
There was always a drum set, because early in the early 80s, there you go. My dad used to always say, "Hey, Ringo, get some lessons," which is like an old Rodney Dangerfield line. But I was always just beating on things, and spatulas on pots and pans, or
spatulas and pillows. Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. There was always a drum set in the house because Cheap Trick would rehearse. There you go. That's the kit I started to learn on. I love double gloves and traditional on the right hand instead of the left. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, that is not match grip. It's very traditional. And like I said, folks, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you very much for listening to the audio podcast. We want you to see it on the videos. You see all these great photos that Vic, our producer, is putting up of Daxx Nielsen from Cheap Trick. You can go check it out at Ryan Roxie Official on the YouTube platform. So what was it? Was there a favorite album that you'd like to drum along to, or was it actually your dad's music? Was it Cheap Trick songs? What albums do you remember being that soundtrack for you growing up playing drums?
Cheap Trick. I never really played Cheap Trick when I was a kid. I never thought about it. It was, I was more contemporary, and the first song I ever learned was "We're Not Gonna Take It." There was a cowbell. There was like a little thing, and kind of learned that. It was just kind of a simple rock song, but with like a bit of frill to it, But I would always just try to play along, never until I got a bit older was very successful with it. But just put the headphones on and just sit. That was my grandma's basement right there in that picture. But she would let me come home from school and give me like some vanilla ice cream with chocolate on it, and then eat that. And then I would go downstairs and just listen to my favorite songs. Early like 9 Inch Nails, Red Hot Chili Peppers. We're talking pre-Blood Sugar Sex Magic. We're talking Uplift, Mofo, Party Plan. And I know I loved the Chili Peppers. I loved just kind of like playing along with anything I would try to emulate. And I don't know, for me, drums was my third instrument, but it was the one yeah, there you go. Also my grandma's house. Yeah, it was just something that I was a shy kid, and I didn't feel comfortable playing in front of people. So I like to hide behind the drums.
Well, you grew up in a musical family, because I know that not only have I played golf with your brother and your father before, but I've also I've seen you play some music before at clubs while we were in town. Miles plays in a band. You've played with him in that band. Tell us about the family and who else plays what, and how this whole musical family operates.
Well, my dad's parents were choir directors, church oriented. They were both singers, kind of operatic, secular music and all that, church music as well. And then my dad, obviously, he says he started out on drums, which I've never seen him play before, but he always says, I was a drummer. And Frank Arsenault was a rudimentary teacher that had books, and back in those days, vinyl that he would play along with. But my dad played piano and obviously guitar. So that was always around. And then my older brother, Aaron, played saxophone in high school, but that was it. He became a professional golfer instead, which was smart.
Hence the reason why I play golf and do pop shows with you guys. I love the family.
Yeah. So then my brother Miles is a great guitar player and singer. He actually took voice lessons from my grandfather. And then my parents put me into piano when I was in kindergarten. And I took it all the way until I graduated high school. So I took 12 years of piano lessons. There you go. Wow. So it was it was never forced on us. My sister Scarlett, which says hello.
Yeah.
You guys have known each other for Scarlett. 20 years. And
your mom is such a lovely person as well. So make sure you say hello to your mom. Did she play any music?
No.
Or was she just the ultimate supporter? Because she's always been so supportive of Rick, so supportive of you guys musically. So you need that in your camp.
Yeah, and it's nice to have somebody that's not musically oriented, so that you can kind of the yin to the yang. It's not just music all the time. She was a great mother and still is. And
that's not Daxx and two siblings, folks. That's Daxx and his mom right there. So don't get all excited. Yeah, there you go. Well, there you go. And so I want to move on a little bit, because you're already starting to play the drums. You're starting to take it a little bit more serious. When was that moment when you took it serious and said, I'm going to start doing this, not on Tupperware and spatulas?
Right. When I was 12, I broke my femur, like really bad. So I missed, I was delivering papers in the rain, and the bike slid out, and the
The femur is connected to the knee bone and the knee bone.
Yeah.
Well, I think the femur is the upper one in the thigh. See, because this is an educational podcast.
Right. This is pre-med and
is it
music.
the upper thigh? Is that the femur?
It is. It's the long bone above your knee. Yeah. Anyways, I missed almost a whole year of 7th grade, and recovering from that, had a home tutor and all that. But that's when I'd be home all day, and I would just, when I finally could get out of my cast and all that, I would go downstairs and just play and play and play. And my dad took me to Guitar Center. I got a big old 12-piece Vistalite Ludwig set. And then I was super into Metallica and Pantera at the time. And I would just sit down there and just practice and practice. And that's when I started my first band and found some neighborhood kids. And so 12, so about 30 years ago.
Would that first band be called Harmony Riley, or was that a little?
Oh no, no, that was in high school. This band was called Wuss.
Oh,
actually, no, my first band was called Asmodeus, which is like some Dungeons and Dragons character. But
Asmodeus. I think Vic has a big pictorial. You have a bunch of shots of Asmodeus on there. Vic, please put them up now. Oh, he's shaking his head no. Oh, no. We've beat the Vic challenge. No, well, I want to sort of fast forward a little bit to Harmony Riley, which was your first band, at least according to the
right
the noise, the internet, or whatever. And this goes under one of our fact or fiction, sort of never let the truth get in the way of a good story, because the research that I read was that Harmony Riley played 1,000 shows. Is that fact or is that fiction?
No, at least. We were a band for 7 years, and we played
fact, folks.
Fact. Yeah, I mean, it was me and my brother Miles, and a bass player named Big Head, and a guitar player named Middle Chunk. Don't ask. And who was hometown friends?
If you had Big Head, Middle Chunk,
Middle Chunk,
Chunk, and who was Little? There had to be a little band or a little.
He was the guitar tech. He was the guitar tech. Yeah. My older brothers, Miles and my brother Aaron, they gave nicknames to everybody, and so Big Head was my friend Matt Macris, and he's now like 6'7", but when he was like 6 years old, he had the same size head as he has now. So he's like one of those kids that would just his head would lean forward and he'd just go super speed.
So he grew into his head.
Now he's huge.
Okay.
But yeah, who's your friend Big Head? And it's kind of mean, but as he got older, it was like he was Big Head,
Which leads me to the obvious, because I know you've done a lot of interviews, and I'm sure that this comes up all the whole time, is like the name Daxx is not a name that comes up every single generation. No. Where does
more
it
and more
from?
now? It is now, like with Dax Shepard, and there's a few other. There's an NFL player named Dax now, and I've met a couple kids.
See, I don't get the Daxx newsletter. If I was only signed up for the Daxx newsletter, I would know all this shit. But I don't.
Well, it's just funny because I grew up for 30 plus years never knowing a single Daxx, right? And then all of a sudden, I was in Venice, California, at a party one time, and Dax Shepard, who's now a huge actor and podcast. But at the time, I think he was just on Pranked, whatever that. One of the Jackass, not Jackass, it was Pranked. I think the MTV show.
Or Pranked.
Punked. Yeah, you're right.
There you go. Close.
But anyways, I met him and I was like, "Hey, my name's Dax too," and he was like, "Great," But I was expecting hey, a big hug.
Does it have any sort of does it have some Scandinavian background, or where does the name Daxx come from? I just thought your dad knew you were going to be a drummer, but he also liked guitars, like axes. So he's Daxx,
That's deep.
Drummer axe.
There's a book and a movie afterwards called The Adventurers, and it's about this Latino fictional playboy, kind of like a James Bond character, and his name is Diego Antonio Xenos, Xenos. So his initials are DAX, so people called him Dax for short.
Nice.
And my dad says that he and my mom went to see it in the theater, and like I said, he was like a James Bond kind of stud. And he walked in the room, and somebody says, "Dax, is it true you've slept with every woman in this room?" And he goes, "Not yet." And they thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
And I love the abbreviation of it.
Yeah. So
did you add the double X? Did you add the X later, or was it always 2 X's?
No, my name is DAXX, and my middle name is X Nielsen. My dad wanted 3 X's. He wanted DAXXX,
Triple
and
X.
my mom said absolutely not. So they moved
That's
it
where I'm
over.
drawing the line.
Yeah, he's like drummer, not porn star.
And apropos photo, Vic, this is gonna show you how old I am, because at the time that I grew up, there were very few Ryans. It was everybody was named Brian.
Okay.
And now it's switched. It's the opposite. Now in today's world, almost everybody is named Brian. It's like being called Mark or something like that. Or Rick, you know. But now and now Brian is sort of the anomaly about that. But enough about me, more about me, because we are having a podcast with Daxx Nielsen here from Cheap Trick.
I'm interested in you, not me.
No. Let's go on to you. We are going back to Get Forward, because we will sort of talk about, maybe call the your big break, if you could call it that, but it would come from an unlikely source, in the same way where my big break would be Alice Cooper. Because if I was growing up, someone would say, well, your big break's going to be with a 70s icon rock and roller. I'm like, really? Right. That's what ended up happening. Your big break came with a surfing music star legend. I'm talking about Dick Dale.
The legendary. There he is. Rest in peace, my friend.
How did that come about? How did that gig come about?
It's a great story, I think. So Harmony Riley, it was me and my brother, and like I told you, there's this great guitar player named Bill Dolan. He used to play in the band called Five Style, which was on Sub Pop for a while. And then he was in the band called the Fire Theft for a bit, which was some of the Sunny Day Real Estate guys. But he is a Rockford guitar player, one of the greatest I've ever heard. Can't sing his praises enough. But he got a gig in Rockford opening for Dick Dale, and he called me and Big Head to be his rhythm section. And I'd never done a hired gig before. I'd always just been in my own bands. And so I had to learn. I mean, I liked his music. I was a fan of his already, but we got to open up for Dick Dale. And after the show, we stuck around to watch Dick, and it was just mind-blowing. And his rhythm section was a bass player named Sam Boley and an incredible drummer named Dusty Watson. And after the show, I was just talking to those guys, and I think this is a good lesson for any musicians out there, young musicians. Exchanged numbers, and I just said, hey, I'm going to move to Los Angeles soon. I already had it in my brain at the time that I wanted to move to LA. And so I got Dusty and Sam's number, and I was like, I'll call you. And I didn't move for probably 8, 9, 10 months. And I got out there and I called him. And Dusty was like, you actually called? Like, that was almost a year ago. And I was like, well, I told you. It was already in my brain that I was going to move out. And so Dusty ended up getting the Super Suckers gig. And
these are all, folks, honestly, all these names that Daxx is talking about are pure gold. Go check out Super Suckers. Go check out pretty much anything that would be on Sub Pop. Was great back then. But
what a great label. So go back a little bit. When I got to LA, Dusty's like, well, great. I'm going out with Dick Dale. Here's a couple local gigs, just 3 hours, drunk, not me, but the whole audience. Here's 3 hours. You need to learn 50 songs and just play a bunch of cover tunes and whatnot. And I did a bunch of shows for artists that he played with locally, and they all gave good reviews. So he got the Super Suckers gig, and he trusted that I'd be the guy to take over for Dick Dale. And that started my career. And I owe him a debt of gratitude, because I learned more from touring with a 68, 69, 70, 71-year-old Dick Dale than I had ever learned from over 1,000 shows with Harmony Riley.
It gives new meaning to that. What's the band? Steely Dan. Ricky, don't lose that number. Yes. Don't lose that phone number. If you're out there and someone gives you a phone number, says call me, doesn't matter. 10 months later, look how it worked out for our guest Daxx Nielsen. From there, you go on to perform with a bunch of different bands, and some that are actually really, really doing well nowadays while you are in Cheap Trick. But it must be a cool feeling to know that you are part of those bands' legacies. I'm talking about a band like Brandy Carlisle.
Mm-hmm. She's huge. She's massive now. She's won, I couldn't even tell you how many Grammys, probably 10 or so. I don't know. And at the time, it was her second album, and we were playing clubs, maybe small theaters, opening for Sheryl Crow or Rufus Wainwright. or, all these great artists. And, her and Tim Hanseroth and Phil Hanseroth, the three of them are Brandi Carlile, the band, with various other musicians. But I knew she was going to be, she is, and they are great. But, I thought they're going to sell out, 2,000 seat theaters for the rest of her career. And now she's 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, 5 nights in the Red Rocks. And it's like 12 Grammys. And, it's like, so it's great for me because when I played for her, I'd be like, hey, I'm playing for Brandi Carlile. And like I said, she wasn't very big at the time. Oh yeah, from the Go-Go's. I'm like, no, that's Belinda Carlisle. This is Brandi. She's going to be huge, and now she is. And I'm so happy for those guys.
Cool. And there was another female artist that you were playing with now that's not just big in music, big in acting, huge in acting right now. The band is called A Fine Frenzy. And why don't you tell us about who was in that band?
Yeah. So while I was still with Dick Dale, I was kind of recruited by my friend Hal Cragen, who's a great bass player, producer. He's played with Iggy Pop for a bunch of years and whatnot. Anyways, he got me into this band, and it turned out we had various forms, but it just, in the end of while I was there, it was just me and Alison Sudol. There she is. Now she's a big famous actress, which is amazing. And this guy, Stephen LeBlanc, who was this amazing keyboard player. He was playing left-handed bass while he was like soloing over and playing keys in his right. He was, just one of those guys that could play everything. And for a while he was living with Billy Preston, and all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, it was a really great band, and she got signed to Virgin, and we kind of toured the world for a long time. And
so while you're doing all this amazing touring, you're doing Dick Dale, you got A Fine Frenzy going, you're Brandi Carlile, Cheap Trick's just like they've always done, working. They're just working and working. Would you guys ever cross paths on the road with you and your dad? Would you get to see each other while you're both touring?
Not much with those bands. My dad and mom came out to the House of Blues Chicago one night to see. I was in A Fine Frenzy opening for Brandi Carlile at the time, which is how I led to get into Brandi's band.
That's how things work, right? Whatever band you're in will usually lead you to the next point in the journey.
Yeah, those guys would watch us play every night, and at the end of the tour, Brandi's and the guys were like, "We'd love to have you in our band if you're ever available." And I was like, "I'm available." So when I was available, I called them and ended up playing with them for a couple of years. One thing leads to the next. Hopefully, do a good job and be easy to hang out with. And
there was also some definitely household name bands that you play with as well. Eddie Vedder being one of the names that you played with.
Incredible. Yeah.
What was that experience like, and how did that happen?
It was for this event called the Hot Stove Cool Music, which Theo Epstein started. He was the general manager, not the general manager. Yeah, maybe, of the Boston Red Sox. He's the one that made the Red Sox win all their championships after the 80-year drought. And then he went to the Chicago Cubs, and after a 108-year drought, they won the World Series in 2016. And not since, but anyways, they do this great event in Boston and in Chicago called the Hot Stove Cool Music. And it raises great money for a different charity every year. I think it's called a foundation to be named later. But Eddie Vedder in 2015 was the special guest. And through some friends of mine, and thank God I still lived in Chicago, I got recruited to be the drummer for 2 nights. We did one night, like the pre-evening get together soiree, and it was me and a bass player named Jason Narducci, which I just found out his name is Narducci, not Narducci, but he plays with Bob Mould and a bunch of people, and he's got his own thing called Split Single.
Pass the Narducci.
Yeah, Narducci. Last but not least, that's good. So anyways, I walked in and here comes Ed. He actually goes by Ed in person.
He wants you to call him Ed.
Yeah, he's Ed Vedder. I mean, Eddie, I'm sure either one's fine. But I walked in and he could not be nicer. We did a sound check. There was no like SIR rehearsal room or anything like that. But, you get a list of 20 songs, and then of course we played like 3 of those, and he just ad-libbed the rest of the set. And luckily, I'm a somewhat of an audiophile, so I knew most of the stuff he wanted to play.
Good.
And we just jammed and jammed.
Prepared.
Yeah, we played at the Metro in Chicago was the big show.
That Metro in Chicago, folks. I mean, it's a really cool. It's a very famous club. I played there with Gilby Clarke before years and years ago. It's just one of those. It's kind of seedy, but still cool at the same time.
Which isn't that rock and roll?
That is rock and roll.
That's 100% rock and roll.
There's definitely a Chicago connection to one of the bands that you played with as well, and I'm talking about Smashing Pumpkins.
Right.
Was there a Cheap Trick connection, or was it a Illinois? Was it a Chicago connection, or was it just again another one of those moments where they saw you playing and then you got to play with them? How did it work out?
That was a different kind of thing. I've known Billy for years through my dad. And
Billy makes no apologies for being a huge Cheap Trick fan. You can hear it in his music. He wears it on his sleeve, and yeah.
I think he and Rick tried to do some co-writing, or did do some at one point. And I was always floating around in the '90s at shows. Whether Rick was going to see the Pumpkins, and I'd tag along to go check them out. Jimmy Chamberlain's incredible, and Matt Walker as well. No, but I was living in LA and got a phone call from Billy, and he said he's recording a new album. I never actually played with the Pumpkins. I just did some recording with Billy, but he wrote like 70,000 songs for an album, and I got to play on a few of them that never got released. But at the same time, I got invited and got to go in the studio for a day or two.
And to work there. That's good.
Yeah, I think he put that album out. And I think there was literally like 37 songs that got released out of 75, something like that.
I think a lot of what we're talking about has to do with you is just that you have that it factor, that cool factor, if you will.
Wow.
I mean, even the way that you can pull off the bandana, sort of put down, and of course the shirt you're wearing right now, it has a little bit of history to it. We were talking about it before the podcast started. Frankie's Pizza, one of the hippest, coolest places to go in Sydney, Australia. We would always have gigs there, after shows there. That's where Alice Cooper Band became part of the Sack Pack. I'm not sure if you know what the Sack Pack is, but the Sack Pack is.
I'm married. I can't.
No. It's nothing sexual. It sounds like it. The big sack or the small sack, whatever. The Sack Pack is if you play a stadium, an arena, and a club within a 24-hour period. And as far as I know, myself, Tommy, Glenn, and Chuck Garrick are part of the Sack Pack. And if you're out there listening and you're part of the Sack Club, we'd like to hear from you. But we did that the last time we were, right before the whole pandemic thing started. We did a stadium with Queen when they had that whole Australian fire thing that was happening. Remember that when that was the huge news, then all of a sudden the world shut down. But we were able to play with Queen at the Sydney Stadium, and then the night after we played at the arena that was there because we were on tour. We were on tour with Airborne, and it was MC5,
Right.
And then
was that Matt Chamberlain or Matt Cameron on drums?
It wasn't Matt Cameron at that point. It was who was it on drums? Damn it. My
cool band, though. Great band.
Very cool band. Very cool band. I think it was right before Matt got into the band. Or maybe it was Matt. Shit, it was Matt. Jesus. Well, wait a second. Was it? All right. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go there because then I'll go down that rabbit hole. Wait a second. And then we played the club, Frankie's Pizza, that night, and we got the guys up from Rose Tattoo to play. But unfortunately, you told me what this whole story is going back, not just about the Sack Pack, is that Frankie's Pizza is no longer.
Rest in peace. It was the greatest place I've ever been to. It was 3 bars in one. Oh,
there's a Rose Tattoo guys. Angry Andy, and you were on tour with those guys, right?
Yeah, just recently. In March, it was us, Stone Temple Pilots, Bush, and Rose Tattoo. What was the other band? Oh, shoot. Totally drawing a blank right now. But it was great.
It's more than enough bands that Vic can't get any pictures of them. So don't worry, guys. If you're listening to us on the audio, our producer was not able to grab those bands that quickly on our live stream. More of Rose Tattoo, of course. But yeah, like going back to the fact that you do have that cool factor, that it factor, I think that helps you in the sense gravitate and sort of be, attracted to other cool artists and other really creative people. And this is all leading up to, for us, 2010, because that's a huge year for you when you get asked to be in Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
Who was it that asked you? How did the whole thing go? Was there, obviously, to step in and play drums, after so many years of the great Bunny Carlos, no pressure at all, right?
No, none at all. Yeah, right. I'd filled in a few times. I did a whole summer with them in 2001, opening. My band Harmony Riley was the opening act, and about halfway through that tour, Bunny was having some back issues, and it got worse and worse. And then so one night we were in Phoenix, of all places, I believe. We'll say that, like you said, the truth doesn't matter. Just it's a good story without it.
Never let it Phoenix. We have a good story.
And one night, Bunny said, "Hey, you're doing the encore tonight." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's like 3 songs: it's Dream Police and Southern Girls and Good Night, whatever, something." And I was, I crapped my pants real quick and changed them and got up on stage, and it went okay. And I think I did that for about a week. And then one day he said, "I'm going home to get my back worked on." And so I did the rest of the summer doing both bands, which is just so great to switch gears. My band was definitely different than Cheap Trick's music. It was rock and roll, but not Cheap Trick. So,
it must be exhausting. Drumming.
I was 20. I was 20 and I turned 21 on that tour. So
okay.
That was 21 years ago. So anyways,
I'll do a third show.
Yeah, I was ready. Like the Sack Pack. I'm ready to do an arena after that. No, it was great. And it was just such great,
When did it become a permanent thing? When it became a permanent thing in 2010, was it like, did you have to leave another band to?
I did. Yeah. Okay. It's kind of a funny story, which is very typical of Rick. I was 3 days away from going to Germany with an artist called Corey Chisel and the Wandering Sons, which my brother was the bass player of. Yeah, there he is.
There's Corey
on the fly. Wow.
Hello, Corey. He had it ready. Trust me, Vic Chalfant, he's always got a bunch of fixtures ready. He probably has one of me, in a diaper ready just for the right moment. But go ahead. So there
you go. I was getting ready to go to a European tour, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I went to dinner with my parents to say goodbye. I'm leaving for 3 weeks. And halfway through the dinner, I get a phone call from Cheap Trick's manager. Oh, look at those guys. And it was Cheap Trick's manager. And I was like, Rick goes, "You should take that." And I was like, okay. So I left the table, and it was their manager saying, "Hey, something's come up and we need you in Austin, Texas in 2 days." I was like, "I'm going to Germany in 3 days and I can't do it." And he's like, "All right, well, think about it and call me back." I went in the restaurant. I chugged a beer because I was, what the hell just happened?
And you sit back at the table, and your dad goes, "Was the good phone call? Was it an important phone?"
He tries to keep it, and I've tried to keep it as well, a business relationship. It's not my kid in the band. It's a guy that has been doing gigs with people, and he's been touring since he was 7 years old, kind of thing. And so I thought about it for a while, 2 hours, made a couple phone calls, and my buddy Brad Pemberton, great drummer, gave me the best advice. He says, if it's one gig with Cheap Trick, it's still cooler than doing 3 weeks in Europe with somebody else. So I said, okay. And then that was, there was no preconceived anything with it. I thought I'd fill in for a few shows, and I just had my 13th anniversary in the band last Sunday.
Congrats. Yeah. Were you able to find a replacement for Corey?
I was.
I don't know why I'm so concerned about Corey Chisel and the Wandering Sons right now and a European tour that happened a decade and a half ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I made a quick phone call to, he was one of those guys. It was his band, but, the Wandering Sons apropos came in. They were wandering. He had
Yeah.
different musicians all the time. So I called a friend of mine, Darren Garvey, who had already played with Corey before, and I paid a few
You're so
$100.
good with names. I wish I was that good with giving credit where credit is due with names,
I
because
just had some coffee. It's only 10:30 in the morning here. So
that's a little bit later for me, and I am having a little bit of a white man's luau
there
right.
you go.
For those of you that don't know what that is, that'll be on some sort of Instagram post later. But yeah, I mean, I love giving credit where credit's due. The problem is, some people are good with faces, some people are good with names. I'm good with neither. I'm good with Cheap Trick lyrics from
There
like
you
the
go.
70s. You know, I can tell you, you know, I can sing pretty much side A of Heaven Tonight, but I can't like tell you, there you go. Look at those guys. Look at those guys. There it is, Cheap Trick. We are hanging out with the drummer of Cheap Trick, talking with Daxx Nielsen here on the In the Trenches podcast. You know what we should do right now? Take a quick commercial break, I think, and we can talk a little bit. I talked about it at the beginning of the podcast. It's about the Enjoy the Ride riff set that I have out. There's a bunch of iconic riffs that I put out that you can learn basically in about a minute and a half. It's on my Instagram at Ryan Roxie Official. No, I'm sorry. Instagram is just at Ryan Roxie with the blue tick. Daxx Nielsen has a blue tick as well. Or you can find us on YouTube at Ryan Roxie Official. But this is the little hype up that we go for Enjoy the Riff. So Vic, if you can run it, do it. And I figured out you can talk over this, because for everybody listening to audio, it's just silence. You don't want that. Just one of my riffs going over and over and over again. If you want to learn more than just one of my riffs, you want to learn a Cheap Trick riff, you want to learn a Metallica riff, you want to learn an AC/DC riff, of course you want to learn an Alice Cooper riff, check out at Ryan Roxie on the Instagram, or TikTok, or at Ryan Roxie on my YouTube. Best place, maybe, RyanRoxie.com. Hit on Enjoy the Riff. And look at that pink guitar. Love it. That is the Rock and Roll Roxie Revenge. So enjoy it, guys. Yeah. Enjoy the riff. Enjoy the ride. How about that for a live sort of commercial break?
I love those. You did Seek and Destroy by Metallica the other day. And
thank you
one
for
of the first
noticing.
songs I ever wrote. Oh, of course, I watch them all. I'm a big fan of Ryan Roxie.
Well, we are big fans right now in the trenches. We are here with Daxx Nielsen from the band Cheap Trick, and we are going to one of our first big topics here, because we're not here to promote anything new. There's no maybe there is a new album in the works. We're not sure.
There's a new Cheap Trick album in the works. Next year is their 50th anniversary. So this year, the band is kind of prepping to make next year a big old event and celebrate 50 years. And it's incredible. Wow. I can't even imagine. You know, I mean, you know, Rick always says, you know, we're too dumb to quit, but it's not even that. I think that, you know, the band is just,
it's an institution.
It is. And, you know, people still want to come out, and, you know, people retire all the time, and it's like, what do you do then? Like, I want to play music. Like, okay, well, let's just keep doing that. You know, you see Paul McCartney, the guy's 80 something years old, and he plays 3 hours a night. Like, he's a billionaire. It's not like he's doing it for the money. He just, when you're a musician, it's in your genes, you know, like
we got our scoop. We got our scoop from Daxx Nielsen. We thought we were here to promote nothing, but guess what? A new Cheap Trick record in the works, coming out next year for their 50th anniversary. Right. Brave Words, you know, Metal Sludge, Metal Hammer, Blabbermouth. Everybody stick it out there right now. I love it. Do you like seeing yourself in any of those websites and stuff when you hear news about yourself?
It's cool. I mean, give me a break. I play drums for a living and have for a long time. And, you know, I don't know. I got that blue collar Midwestern, aw shucks mentality, but yeah, of course, you know, I was in Spain one time and we were on the cover of a Spanish rock magazine. Like, I'm at the airport going, that's me. And I'm in Spain, you know?
I will take a copy now.
I will take 17 copies, please, because nobody else is going to buy it.
I just found out that I just saw a post that they are re-releasing Cream magazine. I think that's very cool.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah, boy howdy. I think Cheap Trick. I think I remember Rick Nielsen doing a boy howdy ad once or twice there.
Absolutely. Back when he used to wear all those pins, he always had, the boy howdy pin on or whatever.
I love it. Well, check it out. Last of the rock stars. This is our big topic number 1. Iconic bands are retiring in droves. I read about it all the time in Brave Words and Blabbermouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yet both of us are in bands that just keep on trucking.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach your mentally, I guess, and physically, the future? Like, what's next, or live in the moment?
Unfortunately, a bit of not what's next, but the future. I mean, I've got 2 little kids. I'm 42. Thinking of the next 20 years. I mean,
wow.
Robin's 70. I think Rick will be 75 this year. So inevitably, it's not going to last another 20 years. Those guys are freaks of nature and still sound and play great. And we travel. We do about 100 shows a year still. But like I said, inevitably, I'm going to have to move on eventually. Hopefully no time soon, but also live in the present, show up. I've never seen any of those guys phone it in on stage. No matter how tired you are, 35-hour trip to Australia, you get on stage and they just put it out there and kick ass. So
that's what inspires. I'm telling you, it must inspire you the same way that inspires me. Because whenever I feel like, I'm getting beat, because a lot of people don't realize just how it does seem easy to the rock and roll lifestyle of touring and, being up on stage. And it is a lot of, definite gratitude, no doubt, but it's that time in between. Everyone always talks about, it's the other 23 hours or the other 22 hours that you have to get from point A to point B within a 24-hour period and make sure that your life and you're keeping yourself healthy. Whenever I'm low energy, and then the minute we hit the stage and I see a guy that's a little bit older than me, my big brother, and I know everybody in the band thinks the same thing. We just go, if he can do it at that level and he can do it with that much energy, we got to step up.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't tell you how many times that's in my brain while I'm playing. I'm, oh God, I'm tired. Yeah. And I look at Rick, Tom, and Robin and go, if they can do it right now, I have no excuse. So, and be tired afterwards. Like, give it everything you got. And, like those old, 1980s Poison videos of, Bobby Doll's getting carried off stage. Like, if that's what you have to do, I think he was drunk, but,
and it's got to be in black and white slow motion.
Yeah. But if those guys can do it, we have no excuse as the younger guys up on stage. Like, I've seen Robin, not be able to speak all day and then get up on stage and just, belt it out for 90 minutes. And it's like, yeah, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm tired, So it is what it is. You get up there and give it everything you got. And then you've got 22 hours until you have to do it again. So no excuses unless you're literally dying.
If we go back to that last picture, Vic, that you just put up of the band Cheap Trick, I noticed that you also have another sibling in the band as well. You've got Robin Zander's son.
Yeah, Robin Taylor Zander. He's been with us, I think, probably 5 or 6 years now, helping out with pretty much everything. He's played every instrument in the band. He filled in for me. Or another. Yeah. Yeah. I have 2 children, and he drummed for me while my wife was giving birth, and I had to be there. I wasn't going to miss that. And then Tom missed about a year. He had heart surgery, and then post-pandemic, all that. So Robin Taylor played bass for a while. Robin Taylor is your secret weapon. Yeah, exactly. So Rick had some health issues, and he played lead guitar. So he's great. He's been with us, I think, like I said, 5 or 6 years now. Cool.
Well, we usually have a thing where let the people speak is where I put something out where everyone can chime in and ask questions. But you know what? I was a little selfish because we're talking about my favorite band. I'm talking to a good friend with Daxx Nielsen here. I had a bunch of questions myself, but I did get some that came in and filtered through. Federica, who helps out a lot with the promo and the script, she had some questions, but I hope it's either her or Vic put some questions from them into the script. So I'm going to give them both credit where
Okay.
credit is due. One of the questions is, what do you believe is the key to Cheap Trick's longevity and continued success in the music industry?
Great songs. I think vast catalog of old and now new material. They're in another world. That was the fourth album I've been on, and pre-pandemic we put out 4 albums in 3 years. 4 albums in 3 years.
That's a lot.
It's
Bang,
just
boom, crazy hello.
Yeah, I think it's like I said earlier. It's that blue collar Illinois, Chicago area. You got to work. You got to put it in, and the band's never stopped writing. And I think, we all have to make a living as well. So can't take 2 years off. What are you going to do? I think there's new albums, mortgages. There's the love of the music. There's, the camaraderie of the band. There's, I don't know.
Well, speaking of those 4 albums that you have made with the band, just recently, this is another question from, I believe it was Federica. Many of Cheap Trick's songs feature intricate and dynamic drum parts, but how do you go about crafting your drum parts for a particular song? And what is your creative process like when working with the rest of the band to develop the material? So basically, how do you approach those parts when you come? Does Rick come up with the riff and the song, or does Robin come in with it, or do you just have a beat sometimes? How does it work?
All of the above. I think, it's a collaborative effort of writing these days. Everybody kind of chimes in with song ideas. Maybe somebody brings in a chorus and, hey, I got a verse that would go great with that. But my approach to drum parts is kind of the Ringo Starr thing. I could never reach his greatness, but play for the song. If they call them drum fills. You fill in a gap. You're not just like playing over unless you're Keith Moon, which was great. Most drummers should stay out of the way while there's a vocal line happening, and then you fill in a little break. So I just try to play what's best for the song, and a lot of times, do whatever you want, the producer says, or the songwriter, or sometimes they chime in and say, I'm really hearing a Keith Moon beat here, Mick Fleetwood kind of thing going on. Do some tom stuff. Not hi-hat and snare, do something on the toms instead. And you're like, I would have never thought of that. Or, do a halftime beat, even though it seems like it should be straight 4/4,
So take direction as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been, after Harmony Riley, I moved to LA and just devoted my life to being a side musician, a hired gun, a studio guy, or whatever, so put your ego aside and do what's best for the song and what the artist is looking for you to do. That's kind of my
best part for the best song that supports the song. That's what I tell everyone as well. I just said guitar parts should always make the song just a bit better. Support the vocal, support the melody. It's been a very cool experience to be able to meet my sort of posters on my wall, like I say, with Rick.
Right.
I'm having Robin sing on my solo album. He sang California Man with Imagine Your Reality. Have you been able to meet any of your drum idols? Because you just mentioned some great ones in that last question, like Ringo. Have you met Ringo yet?
Yeah, I have not met Ringo. Paul McCartney gave me one of these one time. I used to work at the drum department at Center Staging when I first moved to LA. And so I was setting up some drums one day, and I walked out, and a blue Corvette was driving by, and it was sunny, and so I come on, and the blue Corvette pulls up in his paw, and he goes, when
you do that, are you sure it was his first finger, or was it his middle?
I think it was no, that's when he doesn't like it. The first one,
because he's done that. He's okay. I saw that. Is that true? Do you feel that? You feel that that's true? He subliminally flips you off.
It could be some good internet editing. Like you just find like Paul doing this.
Yeah. See, he's saying peace to us now, man. Peace, love, and pussycats, baby.
Yeah. No, I've gotten to meet a lot of my idols. My favorite when I was growing up, like I said, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I went and saw that. I loved them when I was young. Great band. But I went to see them for the first time live in 91 or 92, whenever Blood Sugar came out. And we went to this gymnasium in Northern Illinois, DeKalb, Illinois. And it was the Chili Peppers with 2 opening acts. It was Chili Peppers, Smashing Pumpkins, and this little band called Pearl Jam. And, I went with Rick to go say hi to everybody, and we were standing on the floor. It was like not even sound check yet. And he's like, "You want to go meet those guys?" And it was all these guys in flannel with long, greasy hair. And I was like, no, I don't know who they are. Turns out it was Pearl Jam. And it was Eddie Vedder, who I'd play with, 20 years later. But so I got to meet Chad Smith and Dave Grohl, nicest guy. Him and Eddie Vedder, I always say, are the two nicest guys I've ever met in rock and roll. Dave's hyper and like, hey, but he's one of those guys. And then Eddie's just super chill, but they're the same kind of person. Like, you're in a room full of 100 people that want to talk to them, but they sit and talk to you at that moment, and it's just like, they're not.
And make you feel like the most important person.
Absolutely. And you can feel people like just burning laser beams into your skull because you're talking to them, and they give you that time of their day. And it's not, I'm an arena rock legend, I'm talking to you right now backstage. So yeah, I've got to meet a lot of the greats.
What was that? What was the cover, the Stevie Wonder cover on Blood Sex?
Higher Ground.
Higher Ground. That was my favorite song off. That was my favorite song off. That's my favorite track off that, which I know I'm going to get blasted for, because I'm sure there was a bunch of great Red Hot Chili Pepper songs, but their cover version of it, I really appreciated.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look at the Black Crowes with Hard to Handle, or Cheap Trick with Don't Be Cruel, or California Man. There's nothing wrong with doing a cover, especially if it gets your name on the map, and then somebody listens to the album and goes, "Wow, their songs are just as good as this cover song is."
And you do it in a way that gives you your own identity as well.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah. So we're going to get back to a little bit of fact or fiction. Are you Daxx Nielsen? Because you are here, Daxx Nielsen, drummer of Cheap Trick. Are you an Oscar winner?
Fact or fiction? Am not. I did the music with
I would say it's fiction, but it's kind of halfway there, because you're sort of. I was going to say sort of. It's in between, Vic. Didn't you have an in between graphic? We don't have an in between graphic.
Shaking half back and forth.
Because you did play drums. Yeah.
My best friend in the world, who was the singer for Asmodeus and Wuss, went out to move into LA, and he's now won an Oscar and like 3 Emmys, Oscar and documentary filmmaker. So he called my brother Miles and Dan McMahon, who's in Miles's band, and myself to make some music. And that movie Undefeated went to win on an Oscar. There you go. Wow, he is quick, Vic. Quick Vic.
Yeah, quick Vic, baby. He's
unbelievable.
There's still no shot of me in a diaper. You're never going to get it, Vic. You're never going to get it.
So no, I do not have an Oscar, but I played the drums on the music for the score of an Oscar.
Still very cool.
It's my son Ivor's godfather, Dan Lindsay. So I get to pet it now and again when I go to his house. It's just funny. You go to your house and it's just on the bookshelf. You'd think like it's got to be in some plexiglass vault, or he's like, you can pick it up.
I just saw. You know what? We were at this thing a couple weeks ago with Alice, an acoustic show, and the guy, that really cool dude, that Ernie, who hosted this
Ernie Bach
from Boston.
Ernie Bach, yeah. He owns all the Subarus.
There you go. We got to say, so wait a second. Then you've been there.
I've been there. Yeah, we played his house.
You stayed at the Truman. Well, we were hanging out there, and all of a sudden, just hanging on at the bar is like Frank Sinatra's Grammy. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one. No.
It was just there, and it's like, what is that? And he goes, "Oh, that's Frank Sinatra's original Grammy. I got it from the
incredible
from the collection." But very cool. Again, and a very cool. His son plays drums as well, and a very cool dude. And
he actually played. I forget what song, but he sat in with us. Which is always funny. Like his son played with us that night. It's kind of funny. It's weird to like step up, like put your instrument away and give it to somebody else when you're in show mode, No,
but he was great because he went right for it, and it was like no big deal. Because I think that that whole family has hung out, and they've been around music as well. But I love what they do as far as hosting the guests. We felt it was the first time we'd ever done an Alice Cooper acoustic type of show, and it was very, very, very cool. But it's so funny that you know that. And for those of you that don't, one of the most coolest car collections of all time, Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a couple dollars.
Speaking of other cool things, it's time to announce our fan of the week, folks.
Yeah.
And all you have to do to be a fan of the week is promote this episode. Once we wrap up here, go promote it to 10 of your frenemies. And we don't care. You just get the eyes on it. Get them to subscribe. Get them to watch us week in, week out in the trenches, because Daxx will thank you. I will thank you. Who is our fan of the week this week? Vic, run it. Yo, Matt Savant's son. There it is. And the reason why he's our fan of the week, not just promoting the podcast, giving me these glasses that I'm wearing today and in that photo, because we did an acoustic show, just an impromptu one last week. And guess what? I said, those are very cool glasses. I said, they kind of remind me of Tom Peterson a little bit. And I actually said the words Tom Peterson. He goes, take them. I said, really? And so they're readers, and they're red lenses, and they have they're matching the Rock for Life hat, all that. Look at that, all that product endorsement as I speak through this Beyerdynamic microphone. But yes, they very much congrats, Matts. And if you want to be again our fan of the week, help promote the show. Help it with Daxx Nielsen right now. So one last question before we wrap things up. Touring for 2023, Mr. Daxx Nielsen. What is up Cheap Trick's sleeve?
Well, Cheap Trick never plays less than 100 shows a year, so we'll be busy this year. We're going to do mostly just headlining shows. We're doing some makeup dates with Rod Stewart. We toured with Rod last year, most of the summer, but the first 10 shows or so he had to postpone for production issues. So we're going to make those up this August. We're doing a few shows with Steve Miller Band, I believe. And besides that, at this point, it's always ever changing. It's only March, so I'm sure that there'll be plenty of shows booked. But the plan is this year to do mostly just headlining Cheap Trick shows, and then kind of ramp up for the 50th next year, 2024, which will probably play 250 shows, I'm sure.
I'm sure that'll be great as well.
Yeah.
It was Alex, the son. Alex is
okay.
Yeah.
Alex Bach. Cool.
That's right. I was having those brain parts. I was going, what, if I don't remember Alex's name, because he's going to watch this episode and he's going to be, wait a second, you can't just say his son. Right. Does it ever bother you when someone says his son?
No, because I am his son. It's funny sometimes. Like I said, we've tried to keep it a bit. I'm Daxx Nielsen. Happen to be related to Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, But I'm a working drummer that's worked hard to keep it. I'm trying to do the best job for the band, regardless of if it's Alice Cooper or if it's Eddie Vedder, if it's any band. Engelbert Humperdinck. I would treat the gig the same with not nepotism.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. This is my next big. Oh, you know what? We have a graphic for it. It's our next big. Got it, Federica? Our next big hot topic. What do you say, Vic? Oh, he's got to look for it. There it is. It's our hot topic rock reaction, because we haven't done it in a while. A hot topic, but being that you said it, I hadn't heard the term before. Nepo baby.
Okay, I don't either. I've heard nepotism.
Yeah, dude, it's a thing. It's a thing now. Being a nepo baby. Obviously, there are a lot of celebrities out there that have kids that are in bands, are acting in movies. They're good. There's no doubt that they're not good. But is there something to be said for being a nepo baby?
I think on the positive note, I think who better to play in Cheap Trick than the son of somebody that's grown up around it, or whoever, Wolfgang Van Halen, or I don't know, sons of actors and actresses. You grew up in the industry. Like, who better than somebody off the street that's never toured before, somebody that actually has to learn 20 albums worth of music because they didn't grow up. It's like,
you're already in that habitat. You're already in that zeitgeist.
Yeah, I mean, I know with Cheap Trick, like the guys in the band have known me literally my whole life. So, and I've known them, so it's easy to like, I know how to navigate. At least I try to navigate my way around personalities and whatnot. So, I think nothing should be given to anybody because you're the kid of somebody. But if you're the right fit, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's probably the best fit possible. Because you are, I think, Pete Townshend's brother plays in the Who, like, well, yeah, why hire some guy, no offense to any, but why hire a studio musician out of LA that has to learn it, or I'm a big fan or whatever. When
AC/DC stayed in-house.
Stevie, yeah, I mean.
So, yeah, there's something about that that sort of comfort and that knowing that, okay, you're in the family, you're
Yeah, I mean, if somebody owns a car company or whatever, a tool company, if they were to hire me, they'd have to put me through 3 years of training in college to learn the tool industry. But their kids has been around it their whole life. Like, why would they? I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with nepotism as long as it's deserved and earned. If that makes sense.
Just win, Nepo baby. That's all. That's going to be my new quote, because I'm a sports guy. You know me. I'm a Raider fan, for better, for worse. And honestly, this next year is probably going to be for worse. Are you being a Midwest guy? Do you follow? What's your favorite, MLB or NFL or NHL or NBA?
I love baseball and golf at this point.
Or golf. I was just going to say, or golf.
I mean, I watch golf, especially on the road. For the longest time, I was a huge hockey fan. The Blackhawks, they won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, and on top of the world. They were great for 10 years, and then all of a sudden and now you can't barely watch the team.
We know some people that have Blackhawk tattoos. We know some people that do. We know some people that have Cheap Trick tattoos. We know some people that have Alice Cooper tattoos.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but
I know somebody has a Ryan Roxie tattoo. Do you have a Daxx Nielsen tattoo somewhere?
I do not, but I know people that do.
All right, there you go.
But I think people always ask me, what are my hobbies? And my hobby became my job. I always say that, like, I like music. I like to listen to music. I like to play music. I like to talk to musicians. But golf has become, as I know you as well, like, I'm going to go golfing later today. Got a new set of clubs. I'm excited for that. But
well, maybe we'll have to come on and do another, because if you like talking rock, you like talking to musicians, we'll have to do another episode with maybe me and you co-hosting, and we'll get somebody else.
Absolutely.
We'll get some of your super sucker friends, or somebody that they're above my pay grade to contact, dude. I don't have those private numbers. I'll work my way.
To me, sports, it's some musicians like, oh, yay, sports, like making fun of it. But I know lots of great musicians that love to play golf or love watching basketball, or what it's like. Paul McCartney is at the Super Bowl in the seats, like.
Yeah. I'm following it a lot this year. And you know what the thing is, this year more than ever, I'm following the off season even more closely in the NFL. NFL is my thing, much more, even though I'm wearing a New York Knickerbockers jersey. I'm way into NFL, I think, because I watch Pat McAfee a lot. I listen to his show. I'm admirer of his podcast, the fact that he can do it, 5 days a week. And, we struggled, between touring and stuff to do 1 or 2 episodes, trying to do it weekly. Pandemic was fine, do it weekly. But when you get out on the road, as we tried to connect earlier before, it's like, oh, will the schedules line up and stuff? So
yeah, I didn't want to do it there because had just a cell phone I'd be holding for an hour. Like, I'd rather do it in the comfort of our own homes.
Well, you are at your new home, and your new home is in the land of Alice Cooper. You're in Phoenix, Arizona. Are you loving it so far? Have you experienced the summer yet?
Kind of. I was on tour most of it, but you take out the garbage and the sun just blinds you and your skin starts melting. But it's almost better than 3 months of ice and snow, depending. I don't know. I did that my whole life, and now I'm ready for this. But
yeah, well, I've been doing it for a long time too.
Unbelievable here. Going back to sports, there's 4 major sports teams right now. Spring training, baseball. Every band comes through it here at some point. I'll hang out with you sooner than later. I've been. When I'm home, I go to 3 concerts a week because friends of mine are coming through town. I got to play drums with Government Mule a few months ago because they were in town, and that's one of my favorite bands. And Matt Apps was like, "You want to play a song?" Like, yes. So,
Dude,
just stuff like that wouldn't happen.
In magazine poster child for the drummers of all the coolest bands. If you tell me that you played in the Holy White Hounds, I'll hail you even longer.
I can't lie about that one. Never have.
Do you have a story about the Holy White Hounds?
I don't know who they are. I'm sorry. Oh, Will Lee. He's one of the good. He's Uncle Will. I love that man.
Yeah. What is the story behind you and Will Hunt or Will Lee? Sorry, Will. I was saying Will Hunt. Will Lee. There was a band that happened, and how did it come about? Because I know our producer Vic just put that picture up to remind me, because sometimes I get off on tangents, and then he just brings a picture in so I can get back in focus.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Will Lee was the bass player for the David Letterman
For years,
35 plus, from day one. That he's played on more albums than almost anybody. He's an incredible voiceover guy. Like, he's been on this. He's like, I can't name something, but TV commercials. He's the guy singing or doing the stuff. Like, the guy is incredible.
Was that the band Fab Four that you put together with him?
No, that's the band that he has with Jimmy Vivino, which was in Conan O'Brien's band, and a few other guys. And they're a Beatles. I don't want to say tribute. I don't know what the right word is.
Faux being like faux.
Right.
Faux leather, faux fur.
But they're just incredible musicians, and they do a Beatles thing, true to form. They try to use the right instruments and the right tones. And there's 2 different drum sets on stage, one for the 64-ish era and then one for the later era. And long story, I've known Will since I was a teenager, but somehow he likes me and has been, befriended me, and we FaceTime and all that. And I was in Japan with Cheap Trick, and he called, and their drummer had a minor, I won't even say minor, he had a heart attack. He was okay, but his doctor said he can still sing, but to stay off the drums for a while. So Will called me and said, "Hey, can you play the House of Blues in Chicago with us?" And I was like, "Please." I mean, Ringo and the Beatles are my favorite, one of my favorites. And so it was 37 songs of all different eras, no rehearsals. I flew from Japan to Chicago and went to the House of Blues, and we did a quick sound check, and it was 37 songs. I mean, I had a couple weeks to really think about it in my hotel rooms in Japan, but they trusted me to do it.
And the drummer, man, that's the life of a serious, I don't want to say not studio, not hired gun, but that's just the life of a drummer that wants to work for a living.
Yeah.
I
play with your idols and play your favorite music ever written. And
there's been a lot of times I've seen Glenn Sobel charting stuff out. Like,
absolutely. He's had a great career, that man. You got to do the Motley Crue thing while you're on tour with them, and now he's in Hollywood Vampires.
Saved rock and roll. He saved rock and roll. Now he's in Vampires. I love it.
Hey.
Hey, there's you and Tommy Lee. I love it.
Why am I wearing a shirt?
Yeah. And you're wearing a Coors. I thought it would be much more Midwestern beer. It wasn't be a Colorado beer.
Yeah, that was I was drinking a lot of Coors back in those days.
Was it Red Beach style Coors Light? That's what it is.
That's right.
Let me ask you before we head off onto the highway, folks. How can people get in touch with Daxx Nielsen after watching this podcast and wanting to become a little bit more part of your world? What's the best way to get in touch?
Well, on Instagram, I am Cheap Trick Daxx, and on Cameo, that's cameo.com/Daxx Nielsen. Or that's about it these days. I'm not much on the other socials. It takes too much time. It takes
you can always follow
all day.
Yeah,
and
always
Cheap Trick, yes.
Yeah. So how is Cameo working out for you? I'm signed up to Cameo as well. And actually, you know what? Right now, anybody take a screenshot. You can choose from both of us. I took Satchel's song that he used for Steel Panther,
right?
And I just did my own copy of it. Change my own lyrics on it because I figure if Satchel's probably getting cameos up the yin yang, then I can get the spill off. I mean, maybe me and you are the spill off. You know, I always feel I'm like if you can't afford Alice Cooper, get a cameo from Ryan Roxie.
Think of the savings. No, I mean, it's going well. I always feel like it takes a minute and a half of your day and it makes somebody else's year or whatever, you know. I'm always happy to do them, and it's, you know, I don't charge much and I don't make much, but it's people, you know, you say happy birthday to somebody that's a fan, or wish somebody good health that's not feeling so great. And, you know, like I said, it makes their day and it takes a minute of your time. So I think it's a great thing.
Just so you know, folks, if you're thinking about ordering a Cameo, it takes about a week for me to prepare it.
Yes.
I get into form, I get into my mood, then I really take the perspective of you and where you are at your point. So it takes about a minute or two.
That's what I meant to say. It takes me a week and a half because I just postpone. I'm like,
it's great being a guitar player because, you know, and I've seen a few of your dad's cameos as well. It's great when you have a guitar because you can play the guitar. It's your prop. Right. So you don't have to be there. If you're an actor, you can't do a scene from your biggest film or something. But if you're a guitarist, you can, or even a drummer. I mean, maybe do you do them behind the drums sometimes?
No, because the compression's weird. You know, it would just blow out the microphone. It wouldn't make any sense. But
compression.
I don't know.
Well, let me tell you, my audio is sometimes really good. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's from a hotel room. Sometimes it's from the studio. But it is nice. It's easy to have that prop there. Either way, there it is. We've talked way too much about Cameo, but guess what? The rewards will pay themselves off. Imagine if I got a Cameo from
kids need shoes.
From the singer of the Super Suckers. He ordered a Cameo from me right now.
Oh, that's rad.
That would make my day. Well, Daxx Nielsen, it's been great talking to you, having our chat. Everybody here on In the Trenches, thanks you. Thanks for being part of that live chat. Again, if you have been listening to us on the audio, come to @RyanRoxieOfficial and hit that subscribe and like button. In closing, Mr. Daxx, is there any sort of words that perhaps maybe your parents, maybe the bands that you've been in, maybe you yourself have come up with sort of a life sort of enhancing type of quote or something to live by that helps you from day to day that you can pass on to our listeners? Anything like that?
No.
Perfect. You're our first person that has had the balls to say nothing. I've got nothing that's helped me out. That picture pretty much is it.
He says, Ryan, you're number one. That's
yes, we are all number one.
Yeah, right. Paul McCartney, Rick. It's universal, you know.
Well, definitely say hello to the band when you see them next. Say hello to your family. Say hello to your mother. I mean, it's just always so sweet to see you guys. And I will see you in Phoenix. I mean, probably
if
golfing.
Not before then. Yes.
You're probably going to be golfing at Alice's golf tournament that's coming up in just a little while. So
I hope so. I'm playing the dinosaur course tomorrow. Have you ever been there?
No,
I don't know where it's.
I think maybe I have. I mean, there's only like 250, 300 golf courses in Phoenix,
and they're cheap to play, right? No, God.
And Alice is a member of every single one. Alice is.
I need his number. Yeah,
I'm giving it to you right after we say goodbye because you should definitely be doing this, doing the golf tournament. And so, folks, it's been great having Daxx Nielsen. We will see you again as we cross paths of rock and roll. Thanks again for doing this. Thanks everybody. Thank you, Federica. Thank you, Vic. Thank everybody in the RGA for promoting this and being part of it. Congratulations to Matt, our fan of the week. And above all, until next time, I'm Ryan Roxie. We'll see you on another episode. Enjoy the ride. See you, Dax.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.